Geller, 100 years in the making. Rosalia Veronica Loccachato was born on September 21, 1912 to Maria and Matteo Loccachato. Sadly, 6 months later, at the age of 25, Maria became ill and passed away. Rose was raised by her loving grandparents, Lucia and Salvatore Cangelosi.
But I always wondered under the name of Cangelosi. They raised me and I'm going to take their name. I don't care. They've been too good. They've been wonderful to me. And my aunts and uncles, they've always loved me and gave me everything I wanted. I had a wonderful life with my grandfather and grandma. They were the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. They hardly spoke English. I spoke Italian until I went to school. And I went to school, the Mulligan School on Sheffield Avenue, and her teacher was Mrs. Edenheim. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And I had black hair, all braided. You know how the little Italian girls are. And she says, "What's your name?" I said, "Rose Cangelosi." "Oh, you know how to spell it?" No spell, no. "Oh, well, we're gonna learn you, you're gonna know how to spell that last name." Oh, I can't say. From then on, I was sort of a pet to her, and she made me. I learned how to speak English in about a month. I remember saying a lot of English words, American words. I loved it.
Years later, Matteo remarried. He returned for Rose.
He wanted me at 13 now. He was married and had a boy and a girl. And I said, "Why do you want me now? Why didn't you take me when I was a little girl?" I did tell my father that, and that's the truth. I remember. And he said I couldn't afford it. But now I got your little brother, little sister, and I thought it would be nice for you to live with somebody young. I said, "No, thank you." I said I always had a grandmother and a grandfather that took care of me, and I'm going to take care of them until I don't live here anymore or something happens to us. And that's the way it ended up. I went to Mulligan School on Sheffield Avenue in Clybourne. I went to the Waller High School on Halsted Street. Then from there, I went and got a job. Always lived with my grandmother. My grandmother was one real wonderful woman. Lived with her until I got married. She raised me. My mother had died when I was born, and all I knew in my whole life was my grandmother and my grandfather and the family. And I was raised by them, and I think I was the happiest girl living. Oh, I was at a party, and I was sitting there alone. I wasn't such a popular girl, as some girls are. But this guy come along, said, "Would you like to dance?" I said, "Oh, well, it's okay. I think it's all right." So I started dancing with him. And oh, he says, "You dance so wonderful, blah, baloney, you know." And, well, I said, thank you very much. "Well, when can I see you again?" Well, I kind of thought he was a little short for me. I didn't really like him. But I thought, well, I'll go out on a date with him, see what he looks like and what he's like. So I says, "I have to meet you on the corner." It says, because my grandmother does not allow me to meet anybody outside like this. Why can't I come to your house? Because I said my grandmother doesn't want anybody over to the house. Okay. Well, I went out with him a couple of times. I thought he was a little short for me. But I sort of got used to him. Went out with him for about a couple of years. And my grandma said, "Why are you going out with such a short man for? Why don't you find yourself a bigger man?" I said, "What's the difference?" She was kind of funny. I guess she just didn't want me to go out. So she'd say, "Well, you got to be home early. You will bring my granddaughter home early. No night business. No night business." Well, oh, he says, "Don't worry, I'll take good care." Yeah, the little short guy like you should take care of me, all right. Well, it just happened that, well, what's the difference? I went out and he says, "Well, you know what? How old are you?" I says, "Well, I'm 19. How old are you?" "I'm 20. "Well, that's not too bad. You want to get married?" "Married? What for?" I says, "Oh, I'm only 20 years old. How old are you?" 21. "Oh, well, you know your grandma ain't gonna live forever. You better have somebody to take care of you." Now this little guy was about an inch shorter than me. What was he gonna take care of? But I went out with him for about a year. And finally I decided, well, come on, Rose, let's get married. Well, that was my first marriage. He was only 21, 22. He didn't know what the hell he was doing either. So he married me. So we both got married.
Well, Mom and Dad had a grocery store, like a mom and pop store at 1429 North Halsted Street. At that time, the neighborhood was nice, and my mom worked in there, and my Aunt Elsie would help her out too. They'd take turn shifts, morning or afternoon.
So he said, "We're going to have the grocery store, and I'll help you, blah, 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 you know." Well, it ended up that I had to help him.
We originally lived above the store, but then when I was about 4, we moved to the north side on Winnemac and near Lincoln Avenue.
It wasn't a beautiful store, but on Halsted Street, what do you expect? I had my little girl, Connie. She was only 6 years old, but she'd done so much for me that a 16-year-old couldn't do.
She raised all 3 of us kids on Halsted Street.
I remember Grandma cutting meat in the back, making sandwiches to sell.
Like any butcher. And she never went to butchering school, if you want to call it that.
I used to get a little rag in my hand. This is how the LaBarbas started cleaning. I used to clean all the cans, and she'd have me face them so everybody could read the labels.
They were cute little kids, and they used to go in the back of the store. My mom gave them little jobs to do, clean the top of the cans, and they were so cute. I just loved them.
She had a little book, and she'd write it in pencil, and if they gave her money, she'd mark it off, but no one ever paid her back. She didn't care. She felt sorry for everybody.
And then one day, this black fella came in and he said, used to call her Miss Rose, he said, "There's no way I could ever pay you back." So he says, he handed her the keys to his car, and Grandma owned a car that she couldn't drive because she didn't know how to drive.
I came home from school and the car was in the driveway. I said, "Where'd this car come from?" And she said, "Oh, someone gave it to me."
If I remember right, it was like a '53 Buick. It was a pretty nice car, actually.
My husband, all he done was get in the car, go out, happy-go-lucky, leave me in the grocery store. And he said, "I come back and I bought you a nice big house out in Oak Park."
My dad told us we were moving to Oak Park. And we thought, wow, Oak Park, which I didn't even want to go, because you know how it is when you're in 8th grade, you want to be with all your friends. And so we moved anyway. My father said, we were all moving, and away we went. We had a beautiful home in Oak Park, and we all had our chores to do. My mom still worked, and my dad.
Grandma worked for many, many years in the store. She worked very hard. I don't know anybody that's ever worked any harder than she did.
Working like a dog. She worked very hard in the store.
Regardless of, like I say, what time we used to get home from the store, when she worked at the store, she always had a meal on the table.
Back in about the late 50s, it was getting kind of rough there, because that's when the Cabrini Green projects were just being built. And all of a sudden, the real nice people started changing into some really gang-banging type of individuals that would come in and rob, and they wouldn't care who it was. But they never hurt my mother. They just maybe would rob the place and take the money and go. So back in, I think it was in the late 50s, we decided to just close up the store.
I used to come home for lunch, you know, and she'd make me lunch. So one day I came, my mother was a meticulous housekeeper. So I came home for lunch one day, and she had pulled out the breadboard, and she had newspaper on the breadboard, because she didn't want me to get any crumbs anywhere. So I'm eating, she made me peanut butter and jelly. So I went to pick up my peanut butter and jelly, and on the back of my bread was the print from the comic strips. And I told her, Mom, that's it, I'm not eating on paper anymore. And she went ballistic. She just got so crazy, laughing like crazy. And I thought that was kind of funny. I'll never forget that one.
And so our house was always full of kids, which my mom and dad didn't mind, because they said they'd rather have all of us kids at the house instead of us going by their house. We could never go sleep over by their house. They could sleep by our house. So I didn't care, you know. We had a pretty good childhood.
We bought a duck, and we had this duck for quite a few years, and we had a ball with that. And it was something that you didn't expect to see in Oak Park when we lived in Oak Park, but we enjoyed it, and then eventually we had to get rid of it. But we had a lot of fun with it. You know, it was fun. Well, she thought it was a crazy idea, but she got to like it as long as we took care of it. It was a little messy, but we were able to camouflage as much as we possibly could. But it worked out. You know, like I say, it was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it. You know, especially the kids. You know, they thought it was fun. You know.
Sunday we had to be home Sunday at 2 o'clock for pasta. And if we weren't home, we were in trouble. Big trouble. But everyone adhered to the rules. She trusted all of us, and she never had problems with us. We were good kids too. But I think it was because she was good.
We had spaghetti and or mustachiolis every Sunday like clockwork at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I remember so many nice things. On Sunday, we always had people at our house every Sunday. My mom would never know who was coming over, but she always had a pot of zuguan and some kind of roast or chicken, and she always made a cake for us on Sundays, because she worked every day, and she cooked all the time when she came home. She'd leave us meals, because my mom and dad would come home late, and even so they were late, we still say, can we eat with you? We didn't eat that much. And she, okay, come on, eat with us. So we eat another meal again.
It was funny because we always dressed up for Sunday, but it seemed like, regardless whether we were dressed or not for Sunday, it seemed like we always had to go out with the broom and clean up around the house. And my sister always laughed about that, you know.
Oh, my mom's a great dancer. Me and her still dance up to this day. Would you believe it? We hear some nice music, I go, come on, Ma, let's shake our booty a little bit.
I used to love to dance, and I had a girlfriend that she used to go crazy going to dances every night. And I never used to go out. And that's how I met Joe Geller. He was at these dances too.
She met Joe while she was dancing with her girlfriends. And she thought he was a very nice man, and she liked him. You know, she just thought he was just a very nice, good person.
She married Joe Geller, who was a wonderful man.
When I got married the second time, I was 55.
Because we all liked Joe. He was a very, very nice man, he was a gentleman. And we were happy for her that she found someone that she cared about. They had a very nice life together.
Joe Geller, great man. Really enjoyed it. He, actually we became very close, even though he was a Sox fan, I was a Cub fan. But no, Joe was a wonderful guy, and he treated Rose with silk gloves. He couldn't have been nicer. He was great. And in fact, everybody in the family loved Joe. How could you not like a man like that, you know? And in fact, if I had my life to live over again, I'd like to be like Joe Geller. Very nice, top.
I remember going to the park with Grandpa Joe, and I remember being on the patio in the house she lives in now and playing, but it was always a special treat to be able to spend the night at Grandma's house.
Then we used to go by Grandma's house. That was, you know, my favorite place to go every Sunday, because I know there was pasta and bread. That's what I liked when I was a kid. So.
Every Sunday that we ever go by Grandma's house to eat, she would put together the most amazing dishes. I mean, her spaghetti and meatballs was like unlike anybody's spaghetti and meatballs. She had salads, the breads. I mean, she just went top notch on everything. I mean, there was so much food, and it was just, it was unbelievable. She's just the best cook that I, had ever, you know, her food is just amazing.
She used to cook everything. I mean, all the Sicilian dishes. My dad was fussy, so it wasn't like all the fancy stuff you see in restaurants. But she used to cook pasta fazool and eggplant.
I think of the best spaghetti sauce and best meatballs ever, never to be duplicated. It's a shame too, because they haven't been duplicated, in fact.
Love her lasagna. I remember she made really good lasagna.
Spaghetti and sauce, her meatballs are awesome, and of course Italian sausage. Only eat that at Grandma's.
She always liked her sauce, her gravy, whatever you want to call it.
She would throw just about anything in the pot of sauce and it was good.
One of my favorite things about Grandma's cooking, yes, everyone will talk about the pasta fazool or lasagna, or especially the meatballs and the sauce. But I love those sesame seed cookies. I don't know what they're called, maybe they're just called sesame seed cookies, but I just love those cookies. I always look forward to Grandma bringing those to any event.
Because everything was good. There was nothing, and there was one thing that I didn't like that she had for breakfast, and that was oatmeal. And when I was a kid, when I first moved in with them, they had oatmeal on quite a few morning sessions, and it was the one thing I didn't like that I was served. And until this day, I don't like oatmeal.
Okay, when I had Grandma over, you know, and I was gonna make her pasta and my gravy and my meatballs, she liked it. She was nice about it, but I knew that, you know, she was like, there's nothing better than mine. There's nothing better than mine. But she ate everything, and she was really good about it.
There's a lot of funny stories. When she worked for me, and I was with Dick Lucan, who's still with me to this day. Grandma used to always bring food, and Dick used to love Grandma's food. So when Grandma started working, by the time she actually ended up leaving us, I think Dick gained about 30 pounds.
All through my life, Grandma always said from the very beginning, I hope I make it to see you make your first communion. Gram, you did. We knew you would. And then she said, I hope I make it to see you make your confirmation. You did, Gram. Can you believe it? And it goes on and on of all these different things, from 8th grade graduation, high school graduation. I hope I make it to see you graduate college. And then she said, oh my gosh, I hope I make it to see you get married. And then we got married, and she kept saying, boy, I hope I get to see you have a baby. Well, we have a little baby now. Gram, what are you gonna ask us next? When is the next one coming? We can't tell you that yet.
We had two really neat events that occurred. One was we took her to what's called Festival of Lights, and she was like a little kid seeing all those Christmas lights that really helped deepen the spirit and true meaning of Christmas. And something I found out after the fact was I took her to her very first hockey game, and we took her to a Peoria Rivermen game, and she was down there banging on the glass like a diehard, and that's definitely one of the highlights of my life, was watching that.
On holidays, we used to play this card game with like quarters, and the whole family would sit around the table, and I can't remember the name of the game, but I just remember that it was a 21, it was the name of the game, something like that, but Grandma was really serious about it. And I always thought it was kind of funny. She'd have her quarters all piled in front of her, and she took the game serious, and it was a lot of fun, lots of good, like you'd hear. And I think my favorite part about it was all the great stories you would hear come out of Grandma. You know, one of the funniest stories Grandma would tell almost every holiday, and still does to this day, is when she was out, you know, she was out of the house, and my mom and my Uncle Tony and Auntie Connie were at the house alone, and they somehow broke like a bar piece, or I don't know, it was like a piece of furniture that held all the bar glasses and all this stuff, and there's glass windows on it, and they broke the glass window on it. And she'd always tell this story that for months they had no idea that the glass was broken, and one day she's like, wow, this is really clean. And she went to touch the glass, and her hand went through it because the glass was gone. And that story always just sticks in my mind.
Yeah, well, we took a trip to Branson with the family, Tony, Rose, Connie, and we had a ball. We went to I don't know how many different shows, and she constantly threw up. It was her birthday. I think she was 89 at the time. And we babied her to no end. And the funny part about the whole situation was, towards the end of the trip, the last part of the trip, she was gonna get out of the car, and I says, get out of the car. And she cracked up. She says, what happened to you being nice to me? I said, you've had it. Yeah, look at how many days we've been nice to you. Can't be nice no more. It's over, I said, you know, in a joking way, you know. And she never forgot that. She laughs till this day about it. But like I say, we had a ball. She really enjoyed it. And the way Gail set it up with all the shows, we were sitting in the second and third row of all the shows, and she loved it. She couldn't believe how well it was organized. And we had a good time, very good time. And she never forgot it. She always talks about it, till this day.
And we took Polly and my grandma to Wilmington, to the beach. And we walked at least a mile down the beach. Here's a 90-year-old woman walking through sand in the heat for about a mile. We kept saying, do you want to stop? And she wanted to keep going. She loved the views, and she just wanted to keep walking down the beach to see how nice it was. Then she finally got tired, and we rested, and then she didn't want to sit in the sand, so she sat off. They had some benches off in the distance, but we didn't want to sit on the benches. We sat in the sand. So she was sitting at the benches. We kept looking over to check on her, make sure she was okay. And then one time I look over there, and there's a guy talking to her. And then he left, and then another guy is talking to her. And then another guy. And I'm like, who are all these guys talking to Grandma? So I come over and I said, hey, Grandma, what's going on? You know, are these guys bothering you? Or she goes, no, no. All these men were hitting on her. Here she is, 90 years old. And these are guys coming over, hitting on Grandma. And then, yeah, like I think one guy even asked her out for a date. Like, he wanted to know what she was doing that night.
It just happened not too long ago. You know, she started getting a little, can't walk too good and blah, blah, blah. But I said something nasty, and she said, she came after me. I thought for sure. She came up to me and she said, you know, Dolly, I should really give you a crack in your face. And I said, yeah, try. And she said, don't worry, I could still do it. And you don't think she didn't come fast? But before that, she was like, oh, I can't walk too good. Yeah, right. I said, yeah, give me that monkey business. You can't walk too good. But you sure was trying to chase me through the kitchen. He had to really beat her. It was sort of funny when you think about it now. I still tell her about that, and she laughs about it.
Grandma's got the most hilarious laugh that I've ever that I've ever witnessed. I mean, I would you literally go out of my way to try to make her laugh because she has bronchial issues. So when she laughs, it's so funny that no matter what you do, you start laughing. Anytime she laughs, I laugh. I'm not even laughing at the joke. I'm just laughing at her laugh. I'm literally on the floor dying from her laugh. It's the most funniest thing to hear.
Grandma has a great laugh. It kind of sounds like someone's coughing with emphysema, and it sounds like maybe she's choking on something and you might have to give her the Heimlich maneuver.
Grandma has an awesome sense of humor, even to this day.
She's got a good sense of humor, and that also plays a big part in life.
You know, my mother laughs a lot, and I think that most of the time she was laughing. She laughed at everything. She just had a good sense of humor.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, I don't even feel any different. 100 or 50 or 40, I feel the same.
It just always seemed to me that growing up, Grandma never aged. She always just seemed the same age, the same energy, and I just never could believe as I got older and could comprehend age and what's old and what's not in the human life, that she was as old as she was. It blew my mind that she was driving, up until, not too long ago and things like that. And I just never as a kid could comprehend her age. It just, and now I'm older and wiser. I look back and say, gosh, I hope one day if I can get to that age that I'm doing as well as she is, because it's unbelievable.
She looks amazing. I mean, I cannot believe she's going to be 100 years old. I mean, she looks like she's in, seriously, maybe her early 70s.
I do have some elderly patients that are in their 90s and things, and I could tell you that none of them can hold a candle to our grandma.
I have been a pretty healthy woman.
When she was 70, when she was 80, she looked so young. She's always had the fountain of youth on her side.
Grandma's secret to good health is her eating habits. She eats very well, and my dad used to always say, Rose, tell me what you eat so I can live to be as long as you are. So I think all her healthy eating, and she always was the last one at the table when we were eating, and she always took her time, and I think that's the secret.
Rose I don't think she ever smoked.
I think longevity's in our family though.
Genetics plays a role in it. Of course, she had two aunts that lived almost her age, but I think the key to Grandma is because she was always so helpful and good to people, and I think God has just graced her with a long life because of that. And there's not a sour bone in her body. She's just a wonderful woman.
And she never talked bad about anybody. She always talks nice about everyone. She has no bad feelings toward anyone. Everybody loves her. She's just a good person.
Probably the best thing that I loved about Grandma, and still love about her, is that she was always been so caring and always so on point when it came for birthdays, parties, and just everything. She always just went completely out of her way to do things for us, and just always threw good parties, and she's just always really fun and energetic.
She's a very kind-hearted person, just a very pure, real person. Just talk to you about everything. What I always admired about her, she never swore, she never yelled at you. That's how I remember Grandma.
But more important is the fact she's just a wonderful person. Obviously it isn't just family, it's the friends in the building, the friends, and obviously the people you meet over the years, but she's just her heart. Her heart is just a pure heart of gold, and I would only hope that I could someday be like her in that sense. Just a wonderful person, and I'm glad that she's my grandmother.
A full, kind person. I can never remember her ever hitting me or even disciplining me. She's just a loving person, very kind, good listener. She was always worried about us. She was a good mom, the best. I hope I can be as good as hers.
I love everything about Grandma, but most of all, I love her spunk.
I don't think she ever disliked anybody, and that's a good way to be, And I think people appreciate that, and it shows, you know. And like I say, till this day, I mean, she's always been friendly with anybody and everybody, you know. So, but it means a lot to be that way, you know.
I owe everything to Grandma, because I was kind of a rough kid when I was a teenager, and I used to get in a lot of trouble. Not, you know, police trouble, just a lot of trouble. And she always backed me up and supported me and told me to go to school and finish school. And if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have finished school. So I went back to high school, finished high school, ended up just one grade away from being on the honor roll. So I did a good job, and I owe that to my mother. If it wasn't for her, maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
I think one of the greatest things she taught me was to love my children and to be fair with each one of them and just be a caring person. And that's what I tried to be.
So we have a lot of faith and a lot of love. I love my mom very much, and I love my whole family.
The good Lord did. Kept me going. And I mean, He did. I think I enjoyed my whole life, regardless of all the little bad ins and outs I had. I am going to be 100 years old now. I don't ever feel that I'm that old. I can't believe I'm that old, but I guess I am.